And big breaking news that's coming in from the top court. Women will get permanent commission in the army. The Supreme Court has essentially upheld the Delhi High Court's decision on this matter. The Supreme Court has also come down very, very heavily on the centre, saying that scant respect has been shown by the centre, also pulling up the government for an attempt to thwart the implementation of permanent commission. In fact, you've got Justice Chandrachud saying that women in army is an evolutionary process. Anisha Mathur is joining us with more details on this. Anisha, the Supreme Court making a pitch there for equality in our forces, upholding permanent commission for women officers and also lashing out at the centre.
Well, yes, Akshita, and very, very importantly, the Supreme Court has also pulled up the government for its gender stereotypes. I'm just reading this out here. The court has said that the line of submission of the centre, which had argued for physiological differences as a ground for not allowing permanent commission to women, perpetuates gender stereotypes and is disturbing. This is a very clear statement coming in from the Supreme Court. Remember, this petition was not about women in the infantry and the combat forces. This is for women in the other 9 army corps, which includes signals, engineering, medical, teaching, etc. Even in those arms, the government was denying permanent commission at par with men to women, saying that women do not have the capacity to continue being in this post. This was opposed, of course, most vociferously by women officers who've been in the armed forces for more than 14 years. They had argued that why is it that when we have undergone the same kind of training, we've undergone the same kind of operations, we don't get permanent commission when the men who've been inducted with us have been offered that. The government, of course, had come up with a new policy back in 2018 and said that we will allow permanent commission for women, but not for the women who are already serving. So now this has also been struck down by the court, which has said that permanent commission has to be given to women officers at par with the men officers, and this comes as a very, very big breakthrough for women in the armed forces.
I just want a clarification from one point also. Now, the Supreme Court has said that permanent commission will be given to women officers in all branches except the combat branch. That also is very important.
Well, see, Akshita, this is not the court's observation per se. At this moment, women are not allowed in the combat branch in the first place. In fact, one of the arguments during this petition was that women should be allowed in the combat branches, they should be allowed in the infantry posting. But at this moment, that was not the issue before the court. The issue before the court was that the women who are in the army are still being discriminated against because they are not being given permanent commission at par with the male officers. And that policy has been struck down by the court, which has said that permanent commission must be given. In fact, the government has been pulled up because the Delhi High Court had passed this judgment back in 2010, and the Supreme Court has observed that even though there was no stay on the Delhi High Court verdict by the Supreme Court, the government seems to have stalled the implementation of the orders and was denying permanent commission to its women officers.
So while there was a mention, Anisha, in the course of the hearing with regards to women officers also being a part of combat in our forces, the Supreme Court hasn't really delved into that because that's not a matter that has been brought up in the court, in the plea itself. But Anisha, also, the top court has come down very hard on the centre with regards to the centre making that statement about the physiological features of women.
Well, yes, Akshita, there is where the Supreme Court has pulled up the government most severely. They've said that they are perpetuating gender stereotypes, that this argument, remember, the government had made a very, very, had made an argument that had really upset the women officers. They had said that women officers are physiologically different and the security concerns of these women officers are different, and that is why women cannot be allowed in this kind of post. If women are, more importantly, the government had also argued that the male officers, the jawans in the forward post
Anisha, just stay with us. Lieutenant General Raj Kadian is also joining us on this broadcast. Sir, your reaction to the Supreme Court upholding permanent commission for women officers. Do you think that this is a much needed step to ensure that there is gender equality in our forces?
See, the whole question of women entering the army, we unfortunately followed a Western concept without relating it to our condition, but that is now too late. If you are giving them commission, if you are giving them up to 14 years, then they should also get permanent commission. That there is no doubt. That is my view. Yes, there is a problem in their commanding combat units and the men psychologically accepting command of women. The troops by and large come from rural areas, so there is a merit in that argument that she will not be as effective in command. Not that women are as courageous, not as courageous or as brave or as efficient in the work. But psychologically, our society still does not treat women equal. If that were so, why have we got seats reserved separately in the metros for them?
But Lieutenant General Kadian, then isn't the onus on the government to lead from the front and change that mindset instead of putting out these arguments about physiological differences?
These are
It has to
failing
start somewhere,
arguments.
sir, is my point.
These are failing arguments. What I am saying is that if you have accepted them in the army or giving them short service and letting them serve for 14 years, then please also give them permanent commission so that they get the pension. Yes, the command of units is a different matter on which I have my view that I don't think I agree with the army's contention that the troops psychologically may not fully accept the command being commanded by women officers, because in the society women are still not equal. I was giving you an example of the metro seats and everywhere. Delhi government has recently made the bus or the public transport travel free only for women. Why not also for men if they are equal?
So then,
they are not really equal.
No, sir, Lieutenant General Kadian, in your opinion, what really will it take for gender equality in our forces? Because you're saying that, we're not ready for that kind of a step. You're also saying that what the army has stated with regards to physiological issues, features, really hampering leadership for women officers could be a challenge. So what do you believe is the first step to ensuring gender equality and really pushing women officers?
No, if we have taken women in the army, we must give them permanent commission and find jobs suitable for them, where the effectiveness of the army is not affected. Unfortunately, army is part of society, should normally reflect the social norms of the society.
Okay.
But we have made the army a laboratory for experimentation of social engineering. It is not right. You can't play around with the agency.
Okay, so you're saying, sir, you're saying social experiments is not something that can be implemented in our forces. Lieutenant General Kadian, thank you for joining us with your opinion on this. Major General P.K. Sehgal is also joining us on this broadcast. Sir, your reaction to the fact that the Supreme Court has said that permanent commission must be given to women officers and saying that the mindset must change to ensure gender equality in our forces?
I totally agree with what the Supreme Court has said. Women have done sterling job not only in the Indian Army but the armed forces the world over. They're bound to be teething troubles, and I'm very certain we'll overcome the teething troubles in a very quick time frame. It's an important decision and a very welcome step. I am absolutely and totally supportive of this. In fact, some days back
Well, we just spoke to Lieutenant General Raj Kadian, sir, who was of the opinion that you cannot implement social experiments in our forces. He's agreed with what the army says, saying that, they come from rural backgrounds and that's why there is a certain mindset with regards to women, and that doesn't change with a judgment from the Supreme Court.
I totally disagree with what Raj Kadian is saying. I heard his views. The resistance to change is a normal human reaction. We've got to change in conformity with the times. And women are outperforming and outshining the men folk also. And I'm very certain that they do a superb job. Even in the industry, etc., you have women leading from the front. And I don't understand why they shouldn't be given an equal opportunity. There's 49.5% of India's population comprising of women. It's high time that they be given duties at par with what they are capable of. And I think the women are absolutely capable of matching man to man.
Sir, do you also believe that this is a step that will be an instrumental one to also ensure that it paves the way for women officers to be allowed to fight in combat?
Yes, why not? If they served in combat in the Israeli forces, in the Israeli armed forces, then they also be in the Western countries, France, Germany, United States. Why can't they be in the combat role in the Indian Army? The feeling that if they captured by the enemy, they'll be subjected to a certain amount of, yes, they will be. But when the women come in for these positions, they are aware of it, and they would be are willing to accept that. What happens when a human being, when of our men folk get captured, that Pakistanis not only torture them, they also sodomize their dead bodies. Something similar can happen to women. We'll have to accept it. The society will change overnight, and
this is perhaps a first step, a much needed step that the Supreme Court has initiated. Major General Sehgal, thank you for joining us. Sushant Sareen is also with us on this broadcast. Mr. Sushant Sareen, your reaction first to an interesting reaction that I got from Lieutenant General Raj Kadian, who believes that this is not the time for women officers to be, put on par with male officers because social experiments cannot be conducted in our forces.
No, I don't necessarily agree with him. Whenever you have to undergo social change, there will be, there will be people who will push back against whatever social change is coming. So I wouldn't take that part very seriously. I think what is more serious is, and I have absolutely no problems in women getting full commissions, getting into combat roles. There are women from across the world, including the US and others, pilots and others who are flying combat missions. So all of that is perfectly fine. I think the only thing which I would, like to see is that none of the standards are reduced simply because you want to make a, kind of a point that you are bringing in women into the armed forces.
Okay.
You keep the standards of combat readiness, you keep the psychological profiles of people in place, you do all of that.
Okay.
And if you find that there are women who are, as good, if not better than the men, then by all means, why should they not indulge in combat missions? And after all, if the men can take the risk to their lives and limbs, then so can the women. Bad things happen in war.
Yes.
Bad things happen in combat. And if the women are ready to undergo all of that, I have absolutely no problem.
Okay, so equality on all fronts, including the qualification perhaps, is something that you're stressing on. Sushant Sareen, thank you for joining us. A lot of opinions that we're getting in on this breaking news, but there's no doubt that this perhaps sets the stage and the tone and tenor for some level of equality, gender equality in our forces. And in that sense, this is a landmark decision by the Supreme Court. We're slipping into a short break. It's a wrap on this edition of India's Agenda. Thanks very much for watching. And for all the top headlines of the day, you can log on to indiatoday.in. You can also download the India Today app. All the latest on the Supreme Court decision upholding permanent commission for women officers coming up after this break with Chetin Arun.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.